Black money is not something new to our country or rather than to any other country in this world. They are just a part of the economy, an unpaid sector altogether. So at that point of time, you're not going to say GNP and GDP matters. What is going to matter more is the life of the people. The money that is earned by the government is again being put back into the governmental sectors for the protection of the country or for the transportation for logistics. Good morning and welcome to the sixth session in Business Decision Theories Unit 2, where we are going to speak about the limitations of the national income method. Now, this is something very important. Why? Because after understanding so many methodologies, are we still happy about the factor that everything is working well, we are getting an accurate result altogether? The answer is no. Why? Because there are limitations with each and every method that we are going through. So the following points will be highlighted today in order to tell about the 9 limitations of the national income. The first thing is that national income in curve figures are not accurate. This is inevitable because measuring the economic activity of the entire country can never be done precisely. People sometimes fail to fill the forms or complete them inaccurately. So what is happening here is that when you look into the national income, especially in India, when we are talking about, many a times there is always a miss in terms of getting it accurate in precise manner. Reason is that most of the time people do not fill up the process, they don't fill up the form completely. There's always a miscommunication that happens. People don't give up the exact details. People feel that this is not accurate enough. They don't understand. They don't take this entire cycle of doing things seriously, which leads to trouble, which leads to problem at many a time. So this is why I would say that the first problem is getting that accuracy, getting all the data completely filled up, and then only we will be able to proceed in terms of filling up the forms or filling up the application accurately. Now, the second thing is that the black economy that distorts the figures, this is the name given to the work that is not reported to the authorities. Now, let's talk about the black money and the black economy altogether. Black money is not something new to our country or rather than to any other country in this world. Why? Because black money is something which is very, very common that happens in every single economy. Moment you decide that you don't want to report the income to the concerned authorities, that is to the income tax, that money becomes a black money. Now, is it that I'm going to do it wantedly every time, or is it that it happens intentionally? It is that happens accidentally. Now, there are several factors to be discussed on that. But then what comes into picture is that moment people decide that they want to partially hide the income, or they want to hide it with some purpose for a long-term thinking, it starts breeding that black economy altogether. And this is quite common in India. Why? Because it's not only done by a particular sector or by a particular community or by a particular industry. It is done by everybody. Many a times, the money that is being earned by the unorganized sector in India, or even sometimes the organized sector, they don't want to report the exact figures. They just want to hide it. Moment that hiding starts, somewhere the black economy starts growing, and that starts disturbing the original economy. Now, people think in their mind that why should I go further and report each and every earning as far as possible? What is that I'm going to get out of it? Am I going to get some award? Am I going to get rewarded for it? Am I going to get a complete 100% tax rebate? The answer is no, so I'm not going to get anything at all. So in that case, in that clause altogether, what happens here is that we say, okay, fine, we are not really going to worry about it, or rather the government is not going to be really behind me. So let me also try to hide something, hold something back. The second thing after the black economy, when we move to the third part of it, is the rise in national income may not be meaning to rise in the living standards, which is quite important. Over the last 2 decades, especially talking about the post-2000, 2001 onwards, there has been a significant rise in the economy of our country, which means the national income has been increasing continuously because of the introduction to various sectors, the opening up of the sectors, the FDI coming into picture. So all those good things have been happening in our country. So no doubt about it, we have been able to see a sunrise sector coming up in several areas, and people have started understanding, appreciating, feeling that India is becoming the growing hub in terms of manufacturing, in terms of services. So there has been a lot of appreciation for the Indian economy in many ways. But what has not been appreciated or what has not been able to grow is this factor called as the rise in living standards altogether. How does the rise in living standards need to be accommodated, need to be accounted for? This is very, very important. Why? Because a rise may occur as a result of increased spending on items such as the defense, which does not do the improvement of the living standards. Now, what we have been doing is that the money that has been earned by the government of India, that is the income factor, is again being spent into sectors like defense or probably sectors like railways or some other zones altogether. So what exactly happens is that for the middleman, the question again comes is that I am not getting 1 rupee out of it. The money that is earned by the government is again being put back into the governmental sectors for the protection of the country or for the transportation, for logistics. But what is it for me as a common man? Has it increased my living standards? That is a very big question mark. The government is again going to charge GST from me. The government is again going to put a taxation on me. So I'm not getting any income back in hand. Rather, I'm spending more money. That is the feeling of every citizen in this country. Which means to say again that this increase in the national income is not a true measure to say there is an increase in living standard. That's definitely not going to be understood and accommodated. So, an accompanied and undesirable externalities such as pollution, fall in the quality, all these factors are not going to be looked forward. Rather, these things are just going to go away and we will not be in a position to count the real economy. Now, moving further, the fourth point that we are looking, the account only measures for the paid activities. Therefore, we exclude all the do-it-yourself, that is things which are done by self activities and the work of the housewives. And if over a period of years there is a rise in such activities, then it will not be shown in the official figure. Now let's go back to our households for a moment. Apart from all those big sectors like defense and railways and logistics spoken about, let's come down to that common man scenario for a while. When we go back and think about our own households, the most interesting thing which I would always like to talk upon is the housewife, which includes our mothers, who every day spend time to manage the house. Are we paying them? Are we really going to accommodate that figure in terms of the money or a monetary value factor altogether? The answer is no. We are not looking into it. What we are doing is that we are only trying to find out the factor that the understandability here is that they are just a part of the economy, an unpaid sector altogether. But then there are many people in India who spend time on money or investment in terms of the self-growth. That is, they manufacture for themselves, they make things for themselves. It is all done by themselves. They are not going to extend this money outside. Now, for example, if you look into an agriculture, farming family altogether, they might grow rice, wheat for self-consumption. They are not going to pay it outside. They're going to make their own factors of food or farm, and it's going to be accounted only within themselves. It's not going to be officially accounted in the book of accounts. It's not going to be counted anymore. In that kind of situation, what will happen is that the comparisons and the reporting standards become inaccurate, which means to say that self-consumption will not be accommodated anymore, which will not be spoken about anymore. So that is going to be a very big challenge. Now, in most of the countries, let's say from Africa and Asia, women collect water, wood, people live their houses and they live off the food. They have to go to many places in terms of the activities, and they see that these things are not counted at all. Then the figures will be greatly underestimated. The level of GNP will not be looked forward at all. So that will become a very big challenge here. And that is why we officially say that these kind of activities will be, one thing that we have to look about altogether. So that is why this becomes a very, very important factor for all of us in terms of understanding, in terms of taking it forward here. Now, the other thing which I would like to say here is that when we are looking out for those standards, when we are looking out for those measures here, most of them feel that the work that is being done is not being accounted, it's not being looked forward. And these are the factors under which it's going to be looked upon. These are the things where we are going to think about it. These are the things which we are not going to actually calculate and move forward. So many activities in India across the globe is not actually accounted. It's only considered to be a part of the household. It's only considered to be a part of a normal living altogether. Now, when your mother makes food, that food, what we are going to consume, is considered to be a part of the household activity. You're not going to pay. But at the same time, when the same food is going to be paid in a restaurant and taken, now that becomes a service, and that service is going to be counted. That's going to be accounted somewhere. So that's where the changes in terms of the self-based activities, in terms of the self-earned activity, will not be taken into picture. That becomes a very big challenge for all of us. Now, the next thing is that the fifth point which we are talking about, national income often rises in times of war or in terms of a threat of a war because money is spent on weapons. This will push up the GNP altogether, but people may be acutely short of goods to buy. Now look at this threat that has been coming up. Recently, there was a news stating that the US troops are pulling out their army out of the Afghanistan. Now this may result into a war. There is a war-like situation that might happen in the country of Afghanistan. Now, because of a war, what is bound to happen is that there would be a rise in the national income because the government is now going to do a heavy expenditure on the war front. But because of a war, the common man is definitely going to get affected. Now, there was a war-like situation between Israel and Palestine few weeks back. Now, when that situation arises, the common man in both the countries are definitely affected. The availability of regular goods, the common goods that we need, the food items or shelter, clothing, is definitely going to be affected because of a war. So at that point of time, you're not going to say GNP and GDP matters. What is going to matter more is the life of the people. The COVID scenario. Government had to flush in so much of funds to bring the economy back on track. But what happened because of this is that still many people went without food, many people went homeless, they were not able to get their basic needs satisfied. So somewhere GDP, GNP is not really going to bother it altogether. GDP, GNP might be a factor where they will say that it's not even going to be worth enough in taking it forward. So while making the comparisons in the past, the adjustments that we have been talking about, inflation factor is also one of the most important factor that we are looking at. Whether it goes up, it's trying to make some nominal effect, or it's going to, the figures are not going to be adjusted to remove the effects of inflation. All those factors are going to definitely count for us, which means to say that we are really bothered about this factor. Are we really going to be concerned about this factor, that how the GNP and GDP is going to accommodate all these things inside? Why? Because when we talk about this GDP, GNP and all this matter, these are all relevant only when we are able to get an accurate match. If you're not getting an accurate match, if you're not even getting an accurate situation to be counted upon, then these methodologies, these thought process are not even strong enough for us to understand and take it forward. Now, moving further, the limitation as we continue, the extent of inflation can be calculated fairly over a short period, such as 1 year, and it is much more difficult for a longer period. One reason is that new products appear and existing becomes obsolete. Inflation is a very big worry in the economy. We all know about it. Why it is a very big worry in the economy? Let's talk about inflation for a while. Inflation is nothing but the rising prices going up for the commodities, for the food items. There has always been a rising price. The moment the prices start rising up point beyond a benchmark altogether, it is a worry for the common man because he has to spend more money for the same product. So for the acquisition of the same product, for the consumption of the same product, he has to spend more, which means his expenditure is going to go up. If the expenditure has to go up, the income has to go up. But all these factors are not going to accumulate or are going to be, accommodated by the GDP and GNP. In addition to this, the organizations, the companies whom we are talking about in the FMCG space altogether, they are going to come up with new inventions, new innovations, and new products are going to be launched every year. So at any given point of time, what would be most important for all of us to see is that the prices will keep on rising up accurately. The prices will definitely keep on going up. At one point of time, it will become impossible to measure that rise. We do not know for what are we measuring, for what reasons are we looking forward. So this will become definitely a challenge for all of us in terms of understanding, in terms of going forward. So at one point of time, this definitely becomes a very big thought process. The next thing is that another adjustment that has to be made when making comparisons with the past is that the figures have to be adjusted to allow for the population changes. If the national income has risen by 10%, but the population has also risen by 10%, then the average person is no better off. So one side, when we are talking about the next problem is that one side, when we are talking about the adjustment figures, what is happening is that if the income rises and also the population rises, so there is a trade-off that we are going to see that nothing is going to come into the hands of people. So population increase is also going to be a concern for the nation, because as the population increases and it keeps on moving further, even though the income rises, but the person is not going to get anything in hand. He is still going to remain where he was. So the most important thing for all of us to understand in this scenario, in this way, is that this is going to be a very big challenge. When you look into India and China, the population has been steadily increasing for the last few years, for the last few decades, rather to say. Over a period of time, this particular population growth has never been able to control. But when you go back and you see countries like Denmark, Norway, Finland, Poland, or Iceland, and all these kind of Nordic Scandinavian countries altogether, there has been a dip in the population. Now, this comparison cannot be just explained overnight by saying that why the wages that is being paid in Denmark or Iceland or Finland is higher when compared to that of India. Though India is also making money. India is also a growing economy. India is supposed to be the super economy in the next 3 or 4 years. But still, you find that poverty exists in India. The reason is quite simple. The rise in population and the rise in national income get balanced off at one point. So there is not going to get money in the hands. There's not going to be a sustainable income factor at any given point of time. So this is where it matters a lot for us. Followed by the many factors that affect the quality of life but are excluded from the GNP factor. Over the last few decades, people have to enjoy more leisure, largely because of the fewer work days. The national accounts take no note of this. Similarly, the quality of many products has improved. Modern TV is far superior than that has been made years ago. Now, one thing is the quality of life, which we have been speaking about in economics for a greater amount of time period. Many people migrated from India to European countries or to the Western American countries. Why? Because they felt the quality of life is far more important, far more impacting for them when compared to the normal work style. So what happened because of this? Is that something a very great thing for us to concern? Yes, definitely yes. Why? Because the reason here is that people started looking GDP not as a measure, but GDP does not make any sense to them at all. What was making more sense is the living standards. So when you live in a country like Luxembourg, or when you start living in a country like Finland or Norway, or when you start living in a country like Scotland altogether, the quality of life that is much more higher when compared to that of India. Suddenly, if I migrate from India to Sweden or to Switzerland, the quality of life is much more greater. But at that point of time, the GDP, GNP will not be my consideration at all. I want to live a life which is much more leisure, which is much more accommodative, which gives me a better work-life balance. So if I migrate from India to New Zealand, for example, I feel that New Zealand is a heaven in comparison to India only because the quality of life I perceive to be greater. The nature is good, the quality of air is good, less pollution, and all those factors comes into my picture. Now what happens is that because of this, the quality of many products also have started increasing in India. There was a time where India was just very happy with a black and white TV set. There was a time when India was just happy with one radio or one usual telephone where you start dialing up the numbers. But today, India is in a digital age altogether. Today, when you start talking about LEDs, LCDs and all those big terminologies or the 4K, Ultra HD and all those technologies, the reason is that people are trying to match the living standards with the technology that is becoming more and more relevant today. You cannot go back and tell that technology is an obsolete thing. It does not matter to my living standards. As long as I'm getting my food, shelter and clothing, I'm happy. That was only a primary need satisfaction. The secondary need satisfaction, as man starts growing, what he tries to intend or what he tries to look in here is a better standard. So he needs better TV, he needs better living standards and all together. So on the other hand, the economic growth may be accompanied by increased pollution, the overcrowded city, the frantic lifestyle that we have been talking about, the factors ignored by statisticians. Why? Because in the terms of statistics, max or economy, we are not really concerned about the growth cycle like this. What we are concerned about is that the national income accounts measure for some of the quantitative factors affecting the life, which is very, very important, but many of them will ignore the features of quality of life. So that is highly, highly important for all of us. Now that comes into picture. That is something that is really, really worrying for all of us. Why? Because let us start worrying about this thing now again. Economy also says that unless and until the citizens living in a country are not happy, now we are talking about that happiness index factor also, if they are not happy, they are not satisfied, they feel that yes, this is way beyond our living standards and all those things, then automatically they feel that they are left out, then the economy starts falling down. So these things are not being accommodated while calculating the national income. And last but not the least, finally, the figures say nothing about the distribution of income within the country. In some countries, some small elite has large share of economic stake. In such countries, the figures showing a high average income per head may give a wrong impression of the typical living standards. Now, when you talk about countries like Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan and all those kind of places, the economy is shared by a very, very small group of people who will have a high standard living quality altogether. But not everybody is living like that elite community. Not everybody is having money. It is talking about that few rich people who are sharing the larger stake of the economy altogether. So those people have got more money. So that is what is the nature of worry altogether here. Now that is where the economy again makes a mistake and we are not able to get an accurate living standard altogether. The next thing is the errors in measurement. Black market and underground activities are not included in GDP, which is a larger part of the market. Because wherever you go in India, there is a gray market that is persistently available. That continues. Now, you cannot avoid the gray market because there's no way to accurately measure the black market activity. So this is why I would say that this becomes very important for all of us to understand and take it forward. The next thing is that in United States, the relatively small percentage of GDP, which is very less compared to developed countries, it can go as high as 60% of the country's total GDP. Another big method of error that has been taken around is the inflation. It is adjusted according to the prices. So people are not really worried about it, and other things in the range of the possible inflation can be as much as 1 to 15% in some places. So all these data factors or the data matters are not being really included. The subcategories are misrepresented. So the interpretations what to be included in the government spending or how the government is taking it forward, how is it a part of the overall determination of GDP, these things are not being told at all. So there might be the minor discrepancies will tend to continue, which will distort the entire calculation. Now, the other thing that we are worried about is welfare is not measured. GDP does not give you an accurate reason for the welfare. Why? Because it only measures the trade activity, what happens in the market, and it does not take welfare into account. So when we talk about welfare, the well-being of the person is not looked into. Economic activity could rise, but the well-being, whether he is really happy, how the situation is going on, whether the country is able to satisfy the needs of the citizen is not being known. One side, government is spending money, no doubt about it, but is the spending actually resulting into some good economic increase or activity is not being told. So that's why this is again an inaccurate way in terms of measuring the national income. With this, I come to the end of this session. I hope and believe that all the information that is being given through this particular session will be of a great help and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we shall be learning more about the business decision theory. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened forever. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.